So this number 3 is sponsored by the Saka family and by Yelad Avram Foreman for Shleim for Hadassah Rocha Bazchana Golda. We're on Modim Derabanan. The Beis Yosef explained it's called Modim Derabanan because it is a composite of all of the rabbi's suggestions in the Gemara Sota Daf Mem of what should be said while the Chazan is reciting the Amidah. We pointed out the Avud Raham notes this is the only bracha in the Amidah that even during Chazaras Hashatz, while the Chazan is repeating, we offer our own. And as we said, because you can't outsource Hodah, you can't outsource gratitude. Each of us have to say it on our own. The Aruch HaShulchan, Rav Sternbach also has like this in Shuvas Vanhagos, gives a different reason. He says, the other brachas, when we answer Amen, it's enough to show that we agree, that we are subscribing to the same idea. But when it comes to Modim, if we were silent, then it would look like we're unappreciative. If we're not actively involved, then it implies disagreement. So the best way to endorse what the Chazan is saying when he's offering Modim, gratitude to Hashem, is for us to offer that gratitude as well, simultaneously in our own formulation in Modim Derabanan. Which begs the question, the last topic before we dive into the words of Modim Derabanan itself, which is, what is the proper way for the Chazan to recite Modim Derabanan? Should the Chazan, when he's up to Modim, just go forward, straight, direct? Should the Chazan pause and let the tzibur say their Modim Derabanan before continuing? Should the Chazan say it quietly, silently, to himself? So the Mishnah Berurah in Siman Kuf Chav Zayin Sivkot and Gimel writes, Ein HaShliach Tzibur Tzorach Lahamtin Ad Sheyisayim HaTzibur Modim Derabanan. Mishnah Berurah is of the opinion that there's no need, it's not necessary to wait. When the Chazan gets up to Modim, he recites Modim, and the tzibur do their own thing. He writes in Siman Kuf Chav Dalet Sivkot Mem Aleph Ha'idna Shenogen Eza Chazan Lomar Modim B'tchilas B'lachash Lo Yadati Me'ezeh Makom Yotzel Ma'min HaGazeh. That which the Chazanim say it silently, quietly to themselves, they mumble, they swallow Modim because the tzibur is saying Modim Derabanan. Mishnah Berurah is critical. The Mishnah Berurah rejects such a practice and says it is mistaken. True, the Chazan doesn't need to wait, but the Chazan also should not say it silently or quietly. The Chazan should say it out loud. So isn't it a conflict? Each of the brachas of the Amidah, we know the Shliach Tzibur has to have a minion who are answering, who have to listen, who have to hear. So if the Tzibur are saying their own Modim Derabanan, they're not listening to the Modim of the Chazan. How does that work? In what way is that acceptable? So if you look at Modim and Modim Derabanan, you might note that the first 9 words are exactly the same. So the way Modim begins, when we're saying Modim Derabanan, we're saying the exact same thing for the first 9 words. And the original formulation of Modim, in the debate among the Amoraim, what should be said, what was the Modim, what we call Derabanan, it was really rather short, it was succinct. So the truth is, if you began with the Chazan, you said the first opening 9 words, and there was very little more that was added, so you weren't really missing that much. And that's why some say it's not a problem. It's not a problem. Achronim assume of the Chazan, or even if in your own silent Amidah, what if you said the wrong Modim? Let's say the Chazan was thrown off. He looked on the left side of the line instead of the right side of the line. So the Chazan himself in Chazaras Hashatz said Modim Derabanan instead of Modim. Or let's say in one's own silent Shemona Esrei, in their own Amidah, they were thrown off and they said Modim Derabanan instead of Modim. Do they have to repeat the bracha? Did they make a mistake? So the Eliyahu Rabbah, Rav Shlomo Zalman, Halicha Shlomo, Rav Avadi, and Yechavidas all say that you are Yotzei. Because the theme is the same, the theme is similar and overlapping. Therefore, even if you said the wrong one, of course we don't encourage, a person should pay attention to what they're saying and say the right one, but they're not doing anything, they would not have to repeat if they made a mistake and said the wrong one. Some suggest, the Eliyahu Rabbah writes, the Chazan should say the first word slowly, and so he doesn't wait, he doesn't say it quietly, he says it out loud, but say it and pace it in such a way that the tzibur can say Modim Derabanan and not miss much. There is an opinion that the Shliach Tzibur should say Modim Anachnu Lach and wait for the Tzibur to say Modim Derabanan, and then only resume and finish Modim once the Tzibur has concluded. That's the practice of Mori Rabbi Rav Shechter. That's what he endorses, as do others, but it is a minority opinion. The more accepted opinion, the Mishnah Berurah rules, as we read, is that the Chazan can simply continue. And the Mishnah Berurah brings 2 reasons. Number 1, Chazaras Hashatz was originally instituted for whom? For those who didn't know how to daven on their own. So the people who don't know how to daven on their own are still relying and listening to the Chazan's Modim. So true, those who do know are saying Modim Derabanan, but Mistama, there are those who don't know on their own, and therefore they're listening to the Chazan, and therefore it's not a conflict. There is reason for which the Chazan is saying the other Modim. The other suggestion Mishnah Berurah brings is that there are 10 people who hear. How are there 10 people who hear if they're answering Modim Derabanan at the same time? So Shlomo Zalman and Halicha Shlomo suggests, even though generally we have a principle that Trei Kol Lo Mishtamai, and even in the world of Megillah, even if it's the same thing, but here he suggests that one can speak and listen at the same time if there's an overlapping theme. If essentially you're saying the same thing. If you're saying the same thing. Modim is the same thing. Modim and Modim Derabanan is a very overlapping theme. And so a person can listen and endorse what the Chazan is saying and essentially echo the sentiment and endorse the sentiment and offer their own elongated, prolonged Amen through their own Modim Derabanan at the same time. So, and therefore it wouldn't be considered to be a conflict that the Chazan is saying it out loud while the Tzibur is answering, but the Chazan saying to himself, Balachash, that would be incorrect. It should be said out loud, whether one pauses or not, depends on their minhag, I guess the minhag of the shul, but it should be said out loud so the Tzibur can hear it, even whilst at the same time they are reciting it for themselves. And with that, we'll begin tomorrow night the words of Modim, maybe not the first 9, because those we already covered in the regular Modim, but picking up from there what the words mean.